everyone and welcome to a new video from your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to talk about some of the subjects covered in a recent Unit Lost interview with Jeff Kaplan. They covered a range of topics including LFG improvements, guilds, private profiles and of course Group SR game mechanics versus solos. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. Guilds/clans are very likely. So perhaps the most exciting piece of news revealed from the interview was Jeff's reaction when asked about guilds possibly making it into the game. He gave this super cheeky, "I have nothing to announce about guilds right now" answer and had a huge knowing smile on his face. He went on to say they, meaning Blizzard, are very excited for the huge social feature coming, as he says, hopefully by the end of the year. Now notice he didn't deny guilds outright, he just sidestepped the question. This, and the manner in which he did so, heavily suggests to us that we are indeed going to see some sort of in-game community functionality. A few weeks ago we listed the things we'd like to see in a feature like that. These included unique matchmaking for inter-guild matches, a large-scale cross-platform guild leaderboard with its own unique rewards for the winning sides, etc. They could be based on the in-game factions like Talon or Blackwatch, and everyone would get a chance to contribute. That is the kind of scale us and a lot of you are hoping for. Seeing as Jeff said the team were very excited as well, I think we can all start preparing ourselves for something awesome. An actual role queue isn't off the table. Jeff also spoke about how having an actual role queue matchmaker isn't absolutely off the table for them. In fact, they have a complete design for one, but they've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that would actually mean for Overwatch, and they see the LFG system as a kind of opt-in version of this. He said to make a role queue work, they wouldn't be setting a meta, as some people perceive it, but restricting a meta. If you made a system where you had to have 2 tanks per team, even amongst that role, there's quite a lot of variation. So it's not about dictating what you can play, it's restricting it for the sake of more balanced matches. Blizzard see all the social features they've created thus far as a way of giving the player the control over their experience, and they're using them to test how the player base feels about subjects like role restriction before they ever decide to commit to something as impactful as an actual role queue system. My thoughts on this are, I think a lot of people would welcome a more restrictive system if it delivered a much less frustrating experience overall. That's why it's been such a hot button topic for a long time. So from what Jeff said, role queue is still a possibility, but if it does ever end up getting made, it's not something we're going to see anytime soon. They need to gather all the data from the new features we don't even have on live yet. LFG improvements. Another big factor of the interview was Jeff detailing how they're going to improve the LFG system. If you remember, they do have some bugs that they want to iron out before it goes live, but from what Jeff said here, they're going to be iteratively improving its actual functionality at the same time. He has this funny anecdote about LFG. Apparently it was an idea way back in beta, and Jeff actually argued against its inclusion. He then had to eat humble pie internally with his team when they realised how important it could be. Things like regrouping when a specific role has left your team and you need to find another player will be improved, as will actually queuing when the group is full. Currently it's quite easy to miss for the group leader, so they're going to change that. He even said auto queuing might be an option they'll add in later. On the subject of roles and addressing a few community concerns about the damage category being so broad, he noted that originally the system allowed you to be even more restrictive with what you could select, even extending to barring certain heroes or only accepting ones that you specify. But they decided to launch the feature as simple as possible and then build upon it, so expect to get more control over your groups in the future. One thing that is fairly certain to be added is a ready check for all the players in a group, as that feature would also make auto queuing arguably much more manageable as well. Endorsement rewards. Jeff said that they've kept the details of the endorsement rewards deliberately fuzzy, as they don't want the primary motivation of players to behave well to be in the treats they receive for that good behaviour. As such, he also noted that the intervals at which they select players for those rewards won't be on a predictable cadence, as he put it. That makes sense. That way players won't know they have to behave well for just 2 weeks at the end of the month or something. They'll have to make sure they have good ratings consistently, and that they might get some cool little bonus from time to time. Likewise, the decay inherent in the system means you won't be able to just be nice for a short period of time, get a high rating, and then behave however you want for the future. Private profiles. So there's a lot of controversy surrounding profiles and people being able to hide them from other users. Jeff said that Blizzard regard what we currently have as Profiles 1.0, and they do see a lot of room for improvement. The gameplay argument for being able to see what heroes people play is valid, he says, but so is not being bullied onto your most played hero every match. Jeff says the best way to vote for how profiles should be handled is to set it yourself to what you think is appropriate, and they'll be be able to see how the community really feels. I can kind of see both sides of this, but if LFG does get used a lot, or role queue does ever turn up, then being bullied onto something won't really be a problem for a lot of players because you'll have selected what role you want to be playing anyway. Group SR punishments explained. So there is one section of the interview where Jeff talks about stacking and what challenges groups face in the matchmaker. Now this is obviously important because if LFG works as intended, there will be a lot more groups in the system. Now Jeff at one point says that stacks don't suffer any punishments as far as gaining or losing SR is concerned compared to solo players. Now that might be technically true, but he then goes on to say, if the matchmaker looks at your group and determines you have an advantage, you will actually gain less and lose more. But that advantage isn't calculated just by your comparative SR value to the other team, which it should be, but it also factors in that you are in a group in the first place and determines that you are more likely to win because of that fact. This has various effects. One is, it means that the number, the actual SR number for a group, isn't accurate versus solos. It's treating your group as if you're much higher in terms of SR for gain and loss, but not in the level of the players you're being matched against. So that means that if you do lose, even if the teams are nominally even in SR, you will lose more in a group than you would have done if you were playing on your own. Another byproduct of that is that the SR for solos is equally distorted, but in the opposite direction. You have a much easier route to higher SR playing by yourself. Now another thing to think about is, stacks and solos exist in the same system, but as Jeff noted, they very rarely play each other. That means a lot of solo players are very rarely confronted with an organized team, and they don't have to learn certain aspects of the game in order to overcome that challenge, so they can reach high SR without taking the big hits a group would for each loss. The route to SR is different, and by extension, the value of the SR number is also different, which is not how it's supposed to work. SR is supposed to be an indicator of your likelihood to win a match, but because of the stuff happening under the hood, that isn't exactly true, especially as far as a comparison between a solo's SR and a group's. The effect of that might be the same as it's always been. People give up on playing in a group because it's so much harder to gain rank, and the LFG system won't get as much use as it really should. We hope that isn't what ends up happening, and Scott Mercer will have a huge post about this subject up on the forum soon, so maybe when that's there, we can get a much clearer picture of how this is going to work moving forward. There was a lot of very exciting information in this interview. I'm personally most hyped about what Jeff could neither confirm or deny about guilds. I don't know about you. Let us know in the comments what you're most looking forward to. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another one of our videos again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,